Rasheer Fleming is an underrated beast.
Said it, I'm golden. Told you I'm shining. Had to break through.
So we're continuing our Miami Heat draft series today by highlighting Rasheer Fleming, a guy that the comments have been telling me to talk about for a while. And since I started doing my research on him, boy, do I understand why, because he's a guy that definitely gets me excited. This is actually my second video where I'm looking into prospects the Heat might take in the 2025 NBA draft. My first video was on a guy named Liam McNeely, and he doesn't excite me, but y'all should go check out that video because he's an unathletic white shooter, meaning the Heat might actually have a chance at taking him. But Rasheer Fleming is the complete opposite, an athletic freak who has sensational defensive versatility, and he's a guy that I absolutely hope is there at pick number 20, which of course is the Golden State Warriors pick, which the Heat will use in the 2025 draft. I really don't even want to talk about draft order right now because I'm recording this video the day after the Mavericks won the draft lottery with the 11th odds, which would have been the Heat's had they missed the playoffs, and I'm still sick just thinking about it. But for all we know, maybe a guy like Rasheer Fleming turns out to be better than Cooper Flagg in 10 years, and then we can all look back and laugh at this. But you're funny. Hey, for some reason, it's telling me that 55.9% of y'all like pineapple on pizza, which is insane. Make sure y'all subscribe to fix that. Let's get back into the video. Who knows? Either way, Rasheer Fleming is a guy that I do love a lot. He's a 6'9", 240-pound forward with a 7'5" wingspan. I will repeat, 7'5" wingspan, which how many guys on the Heat roster have a positive wingspan like that? I mean, Khalil Ware might have a positive wingspan. I think he does. Haywood Highsmith has like a massive wingspan as well, but he's 6'4", so even his positive wingspan is nothing impressive anyways. I think it's actually like 7 feet for Haywood Highsmith, which is crazy. But still, when you're only 6'4", 6'5", there's only so much that your wingspan can do. Where a guy like Rasheer Fleming has great size to him, 6'9", 240. That's NBA size right away. Already bigger than Khalil Ware and several, a few inches shorter as well. So I do think he has decent size. He's only 20 years old, so that's not too old. Actually, the same age as Khalil Ware when he came into the league. And he did play 3 seasons in college at St. Joseph's, where if you look at his numbers here, every single year they got better, and that's improvement that I like to see. A lot of times you get these guys in college that played one way, same efficiencies, similar stats the first 3 seasons, and then as a senior, they burst out all of a sudden, and you don't know if it's a fluke or not. Where a guy like Rasheer Fleming, seeing that consistent growth is something that provides optimism for me. If you look at his points per game, he finished his junior year at almost 15 points per game. The efficiency went all the way up to 53%, and then it's that 3-point percentage, which really got everyone excited. 39% from 3 on 4.5 attempts. If that shot is reliable, that will make him a truly ready-to-play now rotation player in the NBA with potentially a very bright future. And if you want to see how his 3-point percentage increased, he was about 30% as a freshman, then he went up to 32, and then all the way up to 39, which is very, very respectable. And then his free throw percentage was at 74%, which is the sign of a guy also being a relatively good enough shooter who's at 74%. That's fine. That's probably slightly better than average. I don't think his mechanics are perfect, but I've seen worse. He still has a great follow through. I think his base is sometimes a little bit inconsistent with regards to how much he jumps forward, if his feet are squared up and that sort of thing. But in general, I think the form is okay. And he also got you 8.5 rebounds a game. So he's using that wingspan and athleticism to crash the boards. Not much of a facilitator, though. Only 1.3 assists, but a hell of a lot of stocks, about 3 stocks. That's 1.5 blocks, 1.5 almost steals. So obviously you're getting a defensive presence with this guy. I also kind of wanted to note something about his college, St. Joseph's. Not many guys in the league from St. Joseph. We talked about in the Liam McNeely video, he went to UConn. I do find that to be a positive check mark in his box just because I do put some stock into a guy coming from a big school because a lot of times those schools know how to develop talent and they're more ready when they come to the NBA. Where a team like St. Joseph, you see the list here of guys that came out of that school. Not many notable ones. I mean, by far the best player was Jameer Nelson, who obviously had a lot of great seasons in Orlando. And coincidentally, he was also picked with number 20. So I know he's a different position than Rasheer Fleming, but if Fleming ends up having the kind of impact in the NBA that Jameer Nelson did, oh, the Heat would take that. I mean, Jameer Nelson was Very, very great starting point guard for many years in this league. And he was picked at number 20. So it is possible to get really great players at the 20 spot. But outside of Jameer Nelson, I mean, the only other semi-relevant players is like Delonte West, who's best known for being LeBron's dad. You got Langston Galloway, who's best known for getting crossed by Dwayne Wade. And then like DeAndre Bembry, who's best known for nothing. But now I kind of want to look at where all these different publications had Rasheer Fleming slotted, so you kind of get an idea the range that he's in. Because with these draft videos, I plan on doing a lot of them throughout the rest of this offseason. And again, who knows if the Heat end up even keeping this pick. For all we know, we could be drafting for Phoenix or Milwaukee, hopefully, by the time the draft pick's selected. But right now it's number 20, so I'm going to be looking at a lot of guys who are somewhere in that range. So CBS Sports has Rasheer Fleming at 22. NBA Draft.net has him the highest at number 20 or at number 15. But then all the other publications have him at 20 or worse. Bleacher Report 26, The Ringer 23, Yahoo Sports number 30, and Tankathon has him coming to the Miami Heat right at number 20. So obviously he's a guy that the Heat definitely have some potential at landing. So to give you a quick idea of kind of the type of player he is before we get into some more specifics, because we're going to read through the CBS pros and weaknesses that they have just to give you a better idea. But across all the publications that I looked at, some player comps that I've seen for Rasheer Fleming is Pascal Siakam. Maybe his peak is Pascal Siakam, which would be incredible as a Heat fan. We're seeing what Siakam is doing right now in the Pacers. Just an hour ago, they took down the Cavs in 5 games. They're going back to the conference finals for the 2nd year in a row. The East is wide open, y'all. I'm telling you. I just posted a video on that earlier today. Well, I guess I'm posting this video the next day. So whenever I reference time in this video, just know I'm recording this the night before you see it. But anyways, I posted a video earlier today just talking about how the East is wide open because, of course, unfortunately, Jason Tatum has his Achilles injury. And it just makes, and Giannis might be traded to the West. So it does make you wonder if the Heat are going to maybe be more aggressive in a Kevin Durant pursuit. And maybe they don't care about this number 20 pick as much. But let's say Rasheer Fleming turns into Pascal Siakam at his peak. Obviously, that would be great. Defensive versatility, can score the ball, stretch the floor. Obi Toppin is another one that I saw, probably a much more realistic comparison. And based off everything I've read about Rasheer Fleming, I think that's the best comparison I've seen in terms of a vertical spacer, the term we always heard with Khalil Ware, a guy who could provide space in a lob threat or a pick and roll, and also a guy that can stretch the floor a little bit and bring that defensive versatility. I do like the Obi Toppin comparison. I also saw Larry Nance. Similar type of build of Obi Toppin in terms of athleticism. So very clearly with Rasheer Fleming, we're working with a super athletic guy. And then I also saw a funny one from The Ringer. They said he's Taj Gibson if Taj Gibson could shoot threes. And I love that. I mean, I grew up watching this Heat team in the early 2010s. Taj Gibson used to cook us on those Bulls teams. And I always would have loved if he could have came to the Miami Heat because he provided those intangibles, that tenacity that really embodies the true Heat culture, not just the Heat culture brand that they're putting out there now that doesn't mean nothing no more. Taj Gibson was a dog, and so was Rasheer Fleming. And Taj Gibson was also a great rebounder, great defender. Same things that we've been saying about Rasheer Fleming so far. So now let's get into some of his strengths and weaknesses, at least according to CBS Sports. One of his strengths they have is spot-up shooting, 41% on open catch-and-shoot threes, although he was only 31% on guarded catch-and-shoot threes. I'm not super concerned about that because we're going to, for the rest of this video, we're probably going to do a lot of comparisons between Rasheer Fleming and how the Heat use Haywood Highsmith, because I do think that would be the role they would look for him to play. And when you look at Haywood Highsmith, a guy that shot nearly 40% from 3 this year, almost all of them were open attempts, a lot of them coming from the corner because they will be looked at as a floor spacer for your other guys to get to the paint, like Bam Adebayo, like Tyler Hero, like eventually Giannis Antetokounmpo. You're going to need to surround those guys with floor spacing, and the corner is the best way to do that. We saw the Heat utilize PJ Tucker in that same role, probably better than anybody in recent NBA history. That was PJ Tucker's role. So it's not like Rasheer Fleming is going to be taking wildly contested shots like Duncan Robinson. If he can hit an open 3 in the corner, that is crucial to providing space for the offense. And at 41% on open catch and shoot threes, that's a great sign. He also has great role player skills. They mentioned that he moves very well without the ball, which is important because at number 20, the Heat are not drafting a star. They're not drafting a ball dominant guy. You have Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo to to have the ball in their hands a lot. You want a guy who can play off ball. That's something Rasheer Fleming could do. It also, and I love the next few things it says. It says he sets fundamental screens, runs the floor hard, finishes with power at the rim, and then get this. They said word for word, he does what the team needs on offense and brings it on defense as a rebounder who hustles and has a nose for the ball. Those are those intangible terms you usually hear about white people, quite frankly. Whenever you hear a white boy, they say he has tenacity, nose for the ball, he hustles hard, like all those things. They're saying that about Rasheer Fleming, which I love. I mean, especially when you compare it to who we took last year. Obviously, Khalil Ware had a great rookie season, but he came into the league with motor concerns. I don't think those motor concerns were super obvious during the games. I think there was a handful of times throughout the season you could notice some things where he might not play as hard as a guy like Udonis Haslem was back in the day, but it wasn't a major issue. But a guy like Rasheer Fleming, you wouldn't have to worry about that at all because he is going to give you all-out max effort 100% of the time, and obviously being able to do the role player things like set screens and finish at the rim strong off. If he can find someone who could throw a lob outside of Tyler Hero, that will be nice to have someone like that who just gets some pretty efficient shots pretty regularly, because a lot of times the Heat use Khalil Ware as like a release valve for when they couldn't score. Run the pick and roll, get Khalil Ware the ball, get him an easy dunk, and that helps the Heat generate some easy looks when their offense is just maybe a bit more stagnant prior to that. And of course, the last strength that they list is defense. We talked about the 1.5 blocks a game, the 1.4 steals, the 7'5 wingspan. When you got a 7'5 wingspan in a 6'9 frame with that kind of athleticism, you're going to be a great defender, especially if you hustle as hard and have as much heart as Rasheer Fleming does. I think this is a guy that Erik Spoelstra will be thrilled to get in his toolbox, so to speak, just because he will have somebody that can finally do a lot of things that Spoelstra hasn't had outside of Bam Adebayo. Because to go back to Haywood Highsmith, I think Spo likes Haywood Highsmith because of he does have some defensive versatility, but at 6'5", there's only so much Highsmith can do. I mean, how many times you've seen them put Highsmith on Tatum and he'll play great defense, but Tatum can raise up over him because Highsmith is just too small. Obviously, you have Bam Adebayo, and now that Bam has Khalil Ware to protect the paint, we did finally get to see some more Bam switching out to the perimeter on defense because he can do those things 1 through 5. And if you give Spoelstra another guy that can do that in Rasheer Fleming, it just really opens up what he can do defensively. And obviously, if you plan on paying Tyler Hero, giving him his extension, he's got defensive concerns. You're going to want another guy that can help make up for that. Maybe the Heat re-sign Davion Mitchell, bringing Rasheer Fleming. It would just help bolster the defense as a whole. If you're watching this video, then you are an elite ball knower, so why not take advantage of it with MyBookie? Listen, y'all, throughout the NBA playoffs, I'll be using their live betting feature to smash the Davion Mitchell overs and smash the Rudy Gobert unders, and then using their early cash out option to stack up the profits. If you want to do the same, make sure to sign up for MyBookie using promo code MM50, which will instantly boost your first deposit. And then once the games wrap up, you can check out their casino, which has blackjack and slots and roulette, you name it. Bet on anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie. Now let's get back into the video. Now, as far as some of the weaknesses, they list shot creation. They say that he lacks any semblance of a mid-range game, whether it's pull-ups, floaters, post-ups. His handle's loose, especially with his left hand. Reminds me of Jaylen Brown. He's not much of a passer off the dribble either. And as a junior, he only shot 36.8 on drives to the basket. And it mentions how all these numbers are concerning because he went to St. Joseph. You know, that's a mid-major program. It's not like he was playing in the SEC or ACC against Duke or someone. No, he was at a mid-major school. Now, I don't really care about these concerns because what do we need our floor spacing, stretch 4/defensive versatility, Swiss Army knife? What do we need him taking mid-range pull-up jumpers for or floaters? Like, that's what we got Tyler Hero for. That's what they're going to try to bring in Kevin Durant for. That's what Bam Adebayo has developed his mid-range game for. We don't need a shot creator at number 20. It's kind of like we were saying earlier. Oh, so he doesn't have great handle. Who cares? And neither does Haywood Highsmith. And Hayward will try to put the ball on the floor. I hate it because he used to be more of a walking turnover than he was last season. He actually did develop a bit of a spin move that he was finishing at the rim pretty consistently, which I do applaud Highsmith for that. But in general, we don't like when he drives. Sit in the corner, find the open gaps in the offense. Don't dribble the ball. We don't need that from Rasheer Fleming either. And yeah, 36.8% on finishing at the rim is not good, but those are on drives, but you're not going to be driving. Most of your rim attempts in the paint are going to be off lobs or off cutting back door, catching the ball in the dunker spot, getting easy layups and dunks. It's not going to be off drives where he has the ball. So I don't really care about those weaknesses. In the passing, yeah, you'd like him to be able to find the open man if they commit hard to him. He did have more turnovers than assists in college last season, which is not great, but you're not going to have the ball. He's not going to have the ball enough in the Heat offense to have that many turnovers or assists. So I don't really think it matters. The only other weakness that they list is his touch. It wonders how good his three-point percentage is or how good his three-point shooting is in general, because he did struggle on those contested attempts. And it does mention how in his conference tournament, he missed 11 of 14 shots, which is not great at all. It also says he doesn't have good touch around the rim. That is a bit opposite than Khalil Ware, where Khalil Ware has that very soft touch for those floaters and little push shots. But Khalil Ware is 7 feet tall. He'll get a lot of post-up opportunities because a lot of times he has a mismatch with a shorter guy on him. It's more important for Khalil Ware to have great touch around the rim, where a guy like Rasheer Fleming, he's not going to be on these posts. He's not going to get any post-up opportunities to have to worry about that touch. He might be a cleanup guy, get an offensive rebound, go back up, or like a lob threat, as far as inside. He'll be a floor spacer on the outside, a guy to catch lobs and cut back door on the inside. Those are all easy buckets. It's not him getting post touches like Khalil Ware. So I'm not as concerned about his touch. And the three-point percentage, like I said, he shot 68% from the free throw line for his career, but as a junior, he was 74% from the free throw line. Was on about a little less than 3 attempts, not a big sample size, but because the free throw percentage is great and the three-point percentages have steadily increased every single season, and his form it shows promise, I do think he can be a reliable shooter in the NBA. But that's pretty much all about Rasheer Fleming. As far as his fit on the Miami Heat, well, yeah, he played 3 years in college, but he's the same age as Khalil Ware. I do prefer a bit of a younger guy like that because the Heat aren't necessarily ready to win now. Of course, if they do make a major trade, that changes some things. But because they're not ready to win now, I do prefer to go younger. He's not the youngest prospect, but he's also not a 22-year-old senior, so I'm cool with that. Another cool stat is he's the only player in college to have 60 dunks and 43s. That shows the offensive versatility, and we know he has defensive versatility, which Spoelstra loves because he likes to switch everything. So I don't always love when Spoelstra does that, but now he might be able to with a guy like Rasheer Fleming. And obviously his fit on the Heat, he probably would be coming off the bench. And I like that a lot because, one, the Heat need some backup size because Kevin Love might be back, but we know his role is more of a locker room leader at this point. But the only other size off the bench is like Nikola Jovic, at least as of right now. And I think his game would fit great with Jovic because they're both essentially stretch fours, but they have completely opposite games. Jovic is your finesse guy. He's not super athletic. He's not a great defender, but he's a guy that can have the ball in his hands, be a secondary playmaker, or maybe even a primary playmaker off the bench. And like I said, he finishes with finesse inside. Where a guy like Rasheer Fleming, he will be your defensive stopper off the bench. He will provide that speed and athleticism to hopefully continually increase the pace of this very slow Miami Heat team. Because I think adding a guy like Khalil Ware was important with all his athleticism because the Heat were very unathletic for a long time with all these undrafted white boys that they kept picking up. I love that they added some more speed and athleticism with Ware. Doing that with Rasheer Fleming will be the same exact thing. And him and Jovic like to run. I think having those two run next to each other off the bench, I think they provide a great yin and yang with each other because they just do a lot of different things on offense and on defense, but they can both space the floor. So you have versatility both ways, and I just think it would work incredible. And ideally, he'd kind of be taking Haywood Highsmith's role because I think he may already be better than Haywood Highsmith, and just because of his size and athleticism, he has way, way, way more potential than Haywood Highsmith, who I do love. I don't mean to throw shade at him, but it's tough when you're 6'5" and not very athletic, to have a lot of potential. But either way, Highsmith is going to be on the last year of like a $5 million deal. He may be a contract that's used to, aggregate with Duncan Robinson or Terry Rozier in the trade that the Heat may try to make in the offseason or by the trade deadline. So he might not even be on the roster. The Heat are able to keep Rasheer Fleming. He's a guy that could fill in that role very nicely, I think. But let me know all y'all thoughts down below. I'm very curious to hear what y'all think. Make sure to like and subscribe because all the support is greatly appreciated. We're on the grind to hit 8,000 subs. So subscribe, please. I do appreciate it. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace out, everyone.
Look, pull up in your city, tryna get that dead face. Do it on my own, I don't need no dead weight. Had to kill him off, yeah, I need a head space. You know this homegrown bitch don't offend me.